So, when it comes to the menopause, what we want to do is target the environment rather than targeting the condition. Okay, so rather than trying to resolve the condition itself, if we target the environment, the internal environment, what's going on inside your body, if we can target that, then we're setting up a much better foundation for minimising the effects that the menopause will have. Think about it like this: if you looked out at a garden that was covered in weeds, if you put up a couple of nice hanging baskets, it doesn't really have the effect that you want. We need to change the environment, we need to change the landscape so that we can then start to produce the effects that we want to see. Now, I want to share with you an approach that will set you up for reducing the symptoms of the menopause as much as possible. As I alluded to before, we want to target the environment, not the condition itself. Now, when we're targeting the environment, we're talking about hormones. Obviously, the menopause is just a change in the hormones in your body. And if we can create a more balanced hormonal profile before you even enter the menopause, then you're setting yourself up for a much easier ride. Okay? Because if you are, through extrinsic factors, disrupting your hormones already, then when the menopause comes along, it's just adding to the mayhem. So if we can calm everything down from the inside through certain lifestyle factors, then you're going to have a much easier time. So when the menopause comes along, it's on a nice smooth pond rather than a rough sea. So there's two really important hormones in our body that we can have a direct impact on. The first one is insulin. Now, when it comes to insulin, one of the main factors, or probably the main factor on insulin, is the things that we eat. So we want to try and take out the foods that are going to disrupt our insulin, things that are going to spike our blood sugar, which then spikes insulin. Bear in mind, a lot of these strategies that we're talking about will have a massive positive effect on losing weight, on moving yourself away from a diabetic or a pre-diabetic state, and also moving you away from many other diseases that we look at as misfortune. A lot of the time is through lifestyle choices. So we want to take out the foods and the drinks that are really going to be disrupting our insulin and causing us to live in a state of excess insulin. If our bodies are always fighting to drive blood sugar down because we've made poor food choices, or potentially, or more likely, not choices, but eating foods that we think are okay, but in reality aren't, then we're constantly living in a state of excess blood sugar, which means we're constantly living in a state of excess insulin. When we've got excess insulin, like any hormone, it's like a balancing act. If you've got excess insulin, you're going to have a decrease in something else, which is then going to cause an increase or a decrease in something else. And it's just this constant balancing act, which the real term is homeostasis. Our body's got to balance everything out. So if we're forcing the body to have too much insulin, then it's going to upset the seesaw. Something else is going to go out of whack. And when our bodies are doing this all the time, and then the menopause comes along with the hormonal changes there, then it just makes it too much to handle. So what we want to try and do is balance out that seesaw. So the foods that we're going to take out are things like excessive consumption of bread, sugars, alcohol, excessive consumption of dairy. You don't have to cut these things out completely. If you do, it has a more dramatic impact. But if you can minimize these foods, most people, all the clients I've ever worked with, people think I'm spying through their kitchen window when I say to them that they have cereal for breakfast, they have a sandwich at lunch, and they have pasta at night. It's just because that's what most people will eat. If they're not having pasta at night, maybe it's rice, or maybe it's potatoes. But we're just living in this state of excess blood sugar, which is causing excess insulin, and this starts the cascade of a negative hormonal profile. So we need to try and get this under control. Now, a really simple way to make this shift in our diet is to look at where we would normally be eating cereals or bread or pasta. They're the big three. Look at where you're eating those and see, just basically switch for vegetables. Okay. Now you might think, oh well, I have a bowl of bran flakes in the morning, how am I going to switch that for vegetables? Well, what you would do is have some sort of protein, whether it be eggs or salmon, something like that in the morning, and put vegetables with it. Now a lot of people turn their nose up when it comes to eating vegetables at breakfast, but believe me, it's a normal thing. Somewhere along the line we got convinced that we should be eating certain foods at certain times of the day. Everything's fair game at any time of the day. Food is food. So by eating vegetables, you're setting yourself up right from when you first eat in the morning on the road to a good, nutritious day. Now that might sound really simple, but it is simple. Taking out those big chunks of carbohydrate, the cereals, the milk that we have on the cereal, the sandwich, the crisp, the chocolate bar, the fizzy pop, the pasta, the potatoes, and the rice, things that most people are making up the bulk of their diet. If you take those things out, that's a massive drop in blood sugar, which means that you've got a massive drop in insulin. So straight away, you're not disrupting this balance that your body's trying to maintain. I don't want this to be any more difficult than it needs to be. So by changing around the makeup of your meals, and as simple as that is, taking out the starchy carbohydrate and replacing it with vegetables, you're getting more nutrients, you're getting more fibre, which is essential for balancing out our hormones as well, because we use fibre to expel the hormones that have been used and we want to get rid of, and especially cruciferous vegetables, so your broccoli and things like that are really good for helping balance A, blood sugar, but B, giving you the hormonal support that you need. So that is the first thing we need to do when it comes to insulin, is getting the diet right, and the simplest way I can get you to do that is by doing exactly what I've just said. Now another thing that has a big impact on insulin is the exercise that we do. So our bodies store blood sugar, we push it into the muscles, okay, to store it. Some goes to the liver, some goes to the brain, but predominantly it's in the muscles. But it doesn't take a lot for us to saturate the muscles. So once the muscles are saturated, there's nowhere else for it to go, and that's when we get the circulating blood sugar, which we have to then bring insulin in to drive down. By doing the right types of exercise, which would be full body movements where you're actually working your muscles. So going for a jog is better than nothing, but it's not going to give the effect that we want. So doing weights, doing full body movements, high intensity interval training like we do at my gym, PrimeMover. This is the type of stuff that we want to do, because what that does is it really sucks the stored blood sugar out of the muscles, which then allows for blood sugar turnover, which is good for our bodies. We don't want stuff to be sat in the body and locked away and just sat there doing nothing. That's not good for our system. We want to be able to use up what's there and then replace it with new. Use up what's there, replace it with new. So the exercise that we do is really essential as well. Now I know a lot of ladies are scared of doing weights because they don't want to get big and bulky. Well, I heard a really good analogy the other day, and it said not doing weights because you fear getting bulky is like not driving in case you accidentally become a Formula 1 champion. It's not going to happen. Your bodies, especially ladies' bodies, aren't designed to get big and bulky. The women that you see that are big and bulky have put so much effort into getting that way, or they've been using weights and not watching the diet. So if you get the diet side of things right and you do weights, then you end up with a nice, toned, slender physique, which is what you want. But during the time of the menopause, it's especially important because the effect that it has on your bones is really important. Now, a lot of people, when it gets to that time in life, they just live by I'll take a calcium supplement and everything will be okay. That's not the way to go. We need to be putting demands on the body that help with the regeneration of bone tissue so that it happens naturally. So this type of resistance exercise is the best type of exercise for you to do, to be able to get the hormonal benefits, to be able to get the benefits with regards to staving off osteoporosis, for cellular turnover, all these benefits that come with this type of exercise. So to sum up, insulin is drastically important to get under control, to be able to bring down the mayhem that's going off with your internal environment, with your hormones. If we can start to balance that out, you're going to have a massive improvement in your transition throughout the menopause. Now, I strongly urge you to read the PDF that we've sent you as well. That's going to go into more detail. But if you can read that, if you can implement the things that I've spoke about in this video, hopefully I've opened your eyes to a few things that you weren't aware of. And I'll look forward to seeing you in video 2, where we're going to talk about the other really important hormone that you can control, which is cortisol. I'll see you in video 2.